Okay. It's really a very simple pattern. It's about setting frames, maybe some permissions, and then commissioning the executive mind just to take over.
In the process I was working on with the Explorer, he went to your writer's training seminar on developing the genius state to become a writer, and then he wanted to work on becoming in the genius state of reading.
Okay.
And we spent a lot of time on that, and we went into the reading genius state, and then I kept taking him in and out, and I thought, I see a conflict between his writing state and the genius. There are differences that he had in his submodalities. So I said, go to your genius state in writing and get into it and bring that to your reading state. We merged two, and he was doing a conflict resolution subconsciously, and he got the tingles that way.
Okay.
And it worked.
Okay, so you made it work. Yeah, I would recommend that.
No? Okay, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I mean, you can make it work, and if you know the other patterns in NLP as you do, you can make it work. Because this is really about making something very discrete and very separate, and reading is very different from writing.
Okay.
I have two different. I'm in a different state when I'm reading than when I'm in a writing. I have different purposes, different intentions, different meanings. My physiology is pretty much the same, but my intentions, my purposes, is so different. I have different things that will interrupt each one. So for me, it's very distinct. Because if I try to be writing when I'm reading, then I'm not going to read it for what that author is saying. Because then I'm thinking my own thoughts and mixing my own thoughts and not getting the... So as I mentioned in the writing workshop, I read, every book I buy, I read twice. If I get it from the library, I might read it just once. But if it's a good book, I'll read it twice. The first time I read it with a know-nothing state, because I want to know what that author is saying. I want to represent that author accurately in my own mind, even if I totally disagree. So I'm going to go into a state of just witnessing and just observing and know nothing to learn that author. The second time, I'll go in and now I'll sort for differences and I'll argue with that author. But at least I understand that author's point of view, and I can present it to his or her satisfaction. If I'm reading something someone has written and I'm doing that, I'm never going to really understand what they're saying, because I'm not giving them a fair hearing.
Okay.
So I like to keep those two really, really separate.
Does that apply to both fiction and nonfiction?
Well, fiction is really, someone is writing and giving us the script, the screenplay for a movie, and so we go into that movie and just play it out. And once again, I would think if you're injecting too much of your own at the first time through, then you're not going to hear their movie. It's going to be a mixture of yours and theirs. And so that's my preference. I mean, that's just my preference for keeping those really distinct.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that's the right way. It's just that's my preference. So,
thank you.
Any other comments, questions about the genius state?
I got a really strong sense of it, and I'm just really excited to go and use it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be really a useful tool.
Okay. I tell the story sometimes about a young girl I met when I was doing counseling in Grand Junction. I met her when she was 7 or 8 years old. Her parents brought her in because she wasn't paying attention to school. She was oversleeping. They said she was such a deep, deep sleeper they couldn't even wake her up. She didn't want to go to school. I saw her again when she was 11 or 12, same kind of thing, school problems, so worked with her a little bit. And then I think I might have had a session too when she was 14 or so, but constantly the problem was she was such a deep sleeper they couldn't wake her up, and that was one of the things I remembered. I met her in a grocery store in town when she was 16 or 17, and she was telling me she was dating this guy. And a couple of years later I saw her in another store, and she said she had gotten married. And I said, really? So I just spent a little time talking with her. I said, you got married? And she said, yes, I've had a baby. I said, you had a baby? She was about 19 at that time. And I said, you have a baby? And I said, so how do you handle it when the baby wakes up at night, or do you still sleep through it? She said, oh, no. She said, that baby can be sound asleep, and I can be sound asleep, and that baby can cry, can whimper in the other room, and I'm up and doing something. And as I started thinking about that, I realized that at some executive level of her mind, she made a decision. I'm a mother now. And even though her natural tendency was to be a deep sleeper, when she was unconscious, that part of her mind would wake her up, would hear that stimulus in the night, and could respond with her program of how to take care of baby. So this is natural. And you don't have to go to a workshop to learn this. Because it can happen if you make that executive set those frames. So what we now can do, if we know the structure, we can just make those adjustments, make those decisions, and really trust it'll happen. And you can be unconscious, and if you set those frames, those cues will be there. And so that's why we always end by saying, the part of your mind that makes decisions, will it take full and complete responsibility just to make this happen? So you don't have to be double tracking and thinking about your thinking. You can just get there and be of one mind, trusting yourself. So I would recommend run the pattern until you have a sense of course. An interesting thing about the feeling of course, is that of course is a sign in your neurology that a frame has now been installed. Because if I said something to you and it was a belief and it was something that you lived your life by, and I said and I just really presented that to you, and you go, of course. What you're essentially saying is, yeah, that's part of the fabric of my reality. So as you do that, and you get that sense of course, then you know it's really inside. Rita?
When you're talking about the baby mother waking up, all her life she believed for some reason she couldn't wake up. When something happened that was really important to her, then she couldn't be able to do it.
So one of the phrases is that, why do this? Why wake up in the middle of the night? Of course, she didn't go through that process consciously, but at some level, she had her reason. So the ability to lose the mind, to lose all the content, and not have to double track. Most of the time, our consciousness is double tracking. That whatever we're doing, but in the back of our mind, we're aware of what we're doing, and sometimes we're aware of multiple levels. We're multiple tracking. And while that's a skill in and of itself, and in some instances that's very useful. I'm guessing that. I've never been up to an air controller room, but I'm guessing they have to do a lot of multiple tracking. And they have to do so and stay calm and cool in spite of all that multiple tracking. And that's the normal state of adult consciousness. It is a rare and unprecedented opportunity to lose your mind, come back to your senses with one engagement in something, and you can do that if something is meaningful enough, you have that intention, you set those frames so that it all goes away during that period of time, and then you're so present to whatever that engagement is.
Just along with what I just asked about, I just wonder, how could that work in memory? Is there something in memory that is any different than what we just talked about?
Is there something in memory?
In memory. In other words, unless somebody's had a car accident and they've really damaged their brain. Is there, how would that work? That, in other words, take something that maybe the person does NLP phenomenally, but maybe in some other arenas might at least believe, I don't know that it's true, but might believe that they can't remember, directions, or they can't remember what time to go to an appointment, whatever.
So I would run the same pattern we did first one this morning, looking at what are the defaults in this situation that's challenging. What are the default frames? What do you believe? Just looking at the matrix they're living in. Okay. What matrix would you prefer to build?
Okay.
And
so look at the VAK maybe to see what do they access when they're doing the genius work, and maybe use those.
My sense is most of the time the movie that you're playing is not going to be the key thing. That it's usually at a higher level. It's usually the beliefs we have about the movie, not the movie itself. Changing the movie is actually pretty easy.
Okay.
and even changing the submodalities, the cinematic features of the movie. But what do you believe about that? Because you can create the best movie for a new strategy, but if you believe, well, it's not for me, I can't do it, it's for other people, then it'll discount that whole movie.
Besides asking, what do you believe about that? Because they can't access that, because they're not aware to them.
Well, that's where the other 26 questions comes in.
Okay, so you ask it in so many ways until they can access it.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a VAK. Maybe eventually it's a VAK, but it's attacking the beliefs first and then...
So the difference between NLP generally and neurosemantics in a general way is that NLP focuses on that movie and the cinematic features of the movie. When you make changes there and it doesn't make lasting changes, it might make a change but then it pops back, I'm going to guess there's going to be frames holding or preventing in some way. So belief frames, understanding frames, decision frames, intent frames. And so I'm going to go to the framing and redo that rather than work on just that movie. Richard buys that. How many other people?
I'm sorry. That's why I came here to learn from you, Michael. I appreciate those concepts.
That's why every once in a while, even the phobia cure, which is one of the most powerful NLP, every once in a while it won't work. And when it doesn't work, it's not because something's wrong with that person or there's something wrong with the phobia pattern, the phobia cure pattern, that movie rewind pattern. What's probably wrong is that there are some frames that's preventing it. So that the person, you can get them back into the booth to watch the movie. You can get them back outside of the movie theater, watching themselves in the booth, watching themselves in the movie theater, watching the movie. You can just back them up again and again. Bob Bodenhammer one time said that he got a person way off the planet watching, and even when they were on the moon watching it, they were still phobic. Because their beliefs was, even though I'm watching myself, watching, that's still real and still happening and controls my destiny. And if you believe that,
you can dig that out. Just similar processes that you've been doing.
Yeah.
Just questions, chunk down.
Yeah, just ask, when you watch that movie this many levels back, what do you believe about that? Well, but that's real. Now, usually, when you have distance and when you have black and white and you have that, it changes. It's not so real. But that's why submodalities work semantically. A submodality does not mean anything in and of itself. What does light mean? What does dim mean? What does close mean? What does far mean? I don't know. Different cultures, those things mean different things. Take a romantic candlelight dinner. Now let's turn up the brightness. You feel more romance? Let's turn it up some more. Got more romance? In that context, lightness does not mean more. It means less. So it's the frames. So the submodality, close, far, bright, dim, doesn't mean anything. But what do you believe it means? What does it mean to you? So that's why it works semantically, not... But most of us, closeness and farness will have about the same meanings. So we can move things in and far, and it'll have the same effect for us as for most people. But then you'll find the one person, it doesn't mean that. So that's why the submodalities is not the key. In spite of what Richard Bandler says and Steve Andreas says, it's not the key. Because it works semantically. So this is the genius pattern. It's really a pattern for mastery. Because if there's something where you need to be so fully, completely there, then this is the ability to step in there and just, when you're engaged, you are engaged. And you're all there. And you're not double tracking or triple tracking or doing all that tracking. That part of the mind has gone away. And for that moment, or for that hour, or however long that is, you are completely engaged. And so for engagements like that, so this works great in relationships. This works just wonderful in producing something when you're engaged in some activity. This would be a great skill for that engagement. And then to step out. Now, the problem with some people not stepping out is they get into one of these great states, and they're in that state, and they come home from work in that state. Maybe you've met a presenter, and the presenter is just going, and it's like outside in the hallway, they're still going. It's like, take a break. You know, or they go home and they do it to their family.
So as like kind of a map for living, would you suggest exquisite state shifts as a way to live our lives?
Exactly.
And that almost every state would then be kind of a genius state, meaning what's appropriate to the context. I don't know. Well, maybe not genius.
Yeah. My guess is a dozen or a couple dozen states that would be just really intense focus states, because they're intense, so there's going to be a lot of energy. And so I would think that they're just at times, and then we step out just to be in a regular state, a normal state. Because it is unnormal. It's not a normal state. It's very intense. And you can accomplish a lot. And that's the other thing. It creates such efficiency. You can get so much done. Tomorrow we're going to talk about relationships, to apply this to relationships. Half the time when we talk to each other, we're half listening. So then we have to have the conversation all over again. And if somebody constantly says to you, you never listen to me, my guess is you're not in that engagement state. Somehow they're not getting the fact that you're present to them fully and completely. And what a gift to give them. And it'll probably cut down on a lot of the communication, because they'll get it the first time. So just being present. Same thing with children. I mean, how oftentimes, as precious as our kids are, after a while, we've got stuff to do, and they're talking, and we're half listening. And so really, when you're there, just stepping in and out of those present states to somebody, I think would just make us so much more efficient with lots of things. So the next pattern I'd like to suggest, and this for me is one of these mastery skill patterns, is a pattern that now starts to integrate our knowledge with our ability to act and do things. We call it closing the knowing-doing gap. We call it mind-to-muscle pattern. And it is a pattern where you can take any great idea. And those of you who are global, this will work. This will be a great pattern for you globals. Some great idea that you can now essentially coach your body how to feel that idea in your neurology. So we take a great idea, and since a great idea is some concept, some meaning that we have, we start with a concept. And it's important to start with a concept and not a goal. The goal is going to be down here when we have our goals and the steps that we're going to go to our goal. That'll be the goal. So this is not a goal, this is a concept. And concepts, when you turn them into principles, will be like a lot of these statements on the board here. This one here says the meaning of your communication is the response you get. What a concept. What a principle. The meaning of my communication to someone is the response I get. So I never know what I've communicated until I get a response, and then, well, that must have been what got communicated. What a principle. Intellectually, I know that. Now, how I actually behave is I get a response, well, you shouldn't. So sometimes there's a gap between what I know and how I actually behave. So what we want to do is to bring it down the level. So this is at a pretty high level. This is pretty abstract. So how can we bring it down? Well, we're going to bring it down linguistically. If this is a principle, intellectually, conceptually, I understand that if I want to build up some wealth for my life, I'll spend less than I make. And a great principle is one of these palm to the head things. Of course. So another great principle would be, in terms of health and fitness, exercise a little bit every day. This is not rocket science. I know that. So we want to bring it down, and so the next level is to bring it down to a belief. And when we bring it down to a belief, it takes more neurology. And that's the principle we're operating. It takes more neurology. because notice how I say, and you can even watch my gestures and movement, hear my tone or the energy in my language. Intellectually, I know that I should spend less than I make. Intellectually, I know I should exercise a little bit every day. Intellectually, I know that the response I get is the meaning of my communication. And notice how that's different from when I really say it as a belief. I believe in exercising every day. I believe in spending less than I make. I believe that the meaning of my communication is the response I get. To even say it as a belief, if you're going to say it as if you believed it, it takes more neurology. In fact, most of us will almost make a fist and almost do a pounding the table kind of an action. I believe in spending less than I make. I believe in making more than I spend. So to say it as if you really believed it is going to involve more neurology. A decision seems to be even lower in terms of neurological investment. I will, from this day forward, spend less than I make. I will exercise every day. I'm going to accept that the meaning of my communication is the response I get. There's almost a cutting action. Before there was now there's a cutting, or I will from this day forward, so help me God. So there's almost a vow, a commitment, a choice, a decision. Now, as we say these things, we're going to have feelings going on. Because what am I feeling? What am I feeling when I say, I believe in spending less than I make? I believe that the meaning of my communication is the response I get. I believe that behind every behavior is some positive intent. I will look for that positive intent behind every behavior. I will spend less than I make. I will exercise. What am I feeling? Well, it might be anticipation. It might be kind of weird. It might be, now I'm getting myself committed. Now there's no choice. Now I'm going to be accountable because I've said it to you. So all kinds of feelings. And when we start eliciting feelings, when feelings are coming, we're going into state. And we're welcoming those emotions. And even if they're unpleasant, welcome them. Because they're feelings, they're emotions, there's somatic stuff going on because it's getting in my body. I'm beginning to feel this. And as you do that, now we can let it out because there's energy coming all the way down. There's more neurology, more investment in physiology and the physiological responses because the gestures involve emotion. I believe, I will, I'm feeling, I'm experiencing. And now we can turn it loose in action. I'm going to do this. Today, the one thing I will do today that will make this real and make this manifest in my life is, and once again, I'd suggest something small, simple. Just write it down. Tell someone. Do something very simple that just starts to act on it. It doesn't have to be a big action, just something that starts to act on it. And so action is the last one. Now with these 5, and there's just 5, we'll add some more to it. This is just the bare bones of this pattern. Intellectually I know, I believe, I will, I'm feeling, the one thing I'm going to do today is. Once we start doing that, we're bringing it from mind into more and more muscle. And if you'll exaggerate your gestures, you'll get it into muscle memory. Behind every behavior, some positive intent. So I've taught my muscles, my neurology, that behind every behavior, some positive intent. So if you can find a way to use your body, to use your muscles to gesture it, it'll make it more effective for you, and it'll allow that emotion and the feelings and that idea. You're coaching your body how to feel an idea. So what we're going to do is take some principle and bring it down. If you don't know some principle, I would suggest start with some of these NLP principles, these presuppositions. In fact, this is one thing we do in our Master Prac. We take these and start mind to muscling them so that eventually they're our way of moving through the world. It's a felt idea that's inside of our body. Whatever you choose, make sure it's ecological. There is no ecology in this whole pattern after you start. So if you get some stupid idea, you can program it in. So make sure it's ecological, it's balanced, it fits all the relationships and systems of your life. Make sure it's a good, solid one. We can check the ecology at the end, but as you bring it down, we're not going to check the ecology. Because inside the system may be against that idea. And there may be all kinds of roaring. We're just going to program it down because we know we are essentially commissioning this idea. I'm commissioning this idea to be felt in my body. And so we're going to drive it right through until it is in neurology. And now we don't have to remember it intellectually. It's part of the way we operate. So, who's got a great principle? Okay.
There should be some order of prominence to this stuff, the way you can start out with a key piece and that will cascade.
And it does.
Yeah, but there's no listing anywhere of that I've seen.
The listing is principle, belief, decision, feeling, action. And it's going to cascade down.
I'm talking about your choices where you can start off with. And all the stuff that we're learning here and hope to learn, there should be certain pieces that would be 90% beneficial to pick, and others would be about 30% to be working on first.
I'm not following what you're saying.
Of all the stuff that we have to study here and learn, there's no certain pieces you would start off on first to present.
Well, so what I'm recommending, if you don't have a principle to start with one of these NLP presuppositions.
Yeah, I know about those, but are those going to be pretty much near the top in desirability to start with?
Sure. Sure.
Okay.
So who would like to do this? Let me demonstrate this with somebody so that you'll start to mind to muscle a great idea. Give me an idea that you would like to commission your body, coach your body to really feel.
Communication is the response I get.
Okay, so that presupposition, communication is the response I get. We've got another one.
Early to bed, early to rise makes you feel healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Okay. So some of the principles you may want to take may be little sayings, little ideas that have been crystallized over the years, and it may be a kind of an affirmation or a belief system. And so intellectually, I know that. Early to bed, early to rise. And so, well, I don't think that's how it ended for her. Makes a girl healthy, wealthy, wise. Healthy, wealthy, and wise. In fact, this brings up another point. As you bring your principle down, you will find the words that work for you. You'll rephrase it and rephrase it and rephrase it until you find a succinct and poignant and compelling words. Because linguistics map it. And when haven't you had this experience? You found the right words and suddenly it went in. And so that'll be part of what we're going to do, finding the right words for you. And once again, when you coach someone, when you're the coach in this, do not impose your words. Let the person have the right. It's their words, it's their linguistics, it's their process. Who else has got something?
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. So the principle is, let's make sure the principle is well formed. Keep what simple?
Life.
Keep life simple. It's still pretty general.
Lifestyle.
Use other people's money.
Lifestyle is what I've been talking about.
Okay. And what do you mean by lifestyle?
Keep on the things you really need. These
Okay.
are the things you need.
Okay.
Go after, funnel in what you really want.
Okay. So what I just did with Rita is something you'll want to do with your person. If the person gives something real global and general, and you can't make a picture of it, just do a little bit of modeling until they get to start with that principle, and then as they come down, the words will keep changing, but at least it starts with a principle, and always ask the question at the very beginning: is that ecological for you? If you made your lifestyle more simple and simplified things, is that ecological? Okay. And then the next first thing would be to say the words. Say the words, theoretically, I understand. Theoretically, I understand.
Theoretically, I understand.
That if I kept my lifestyle simple, it would make things go better.
That if I kept my lifestyle simple, it would make things go better.
And so now say it in your words.
If I keep things simple in my life, in my lifestyle, things will go a lot better for me.
Okay, so I understand that if I keep things simple, things will go better for me. And the next step is turning into a belief.
Early to rise makes a girl healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Okay. So you understand that. Intellectually, you know that that's a good principle.
My gran lived by it.
Okay.
And she lived a long and healthy, wealthy life. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say it one more time. I understand.
I understand
And then,
that early to bed, early to rise makes a girl healthy, wealthy, and wise.
okay. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
So there's,
I want to. Yeah. I want to
You
get up
believe
early. Yeah.
How
I
much
want
do
to
you
waste
believe
the
that?
day.
How much do you believe that?
Well, makes you healthy to go to bed early
Yeah,
and
you
get
believe
up
that part of
early.
it.
Yeah. And not stay up all night working or watching TV or something. So it makes you healthy. Wealthy, I don't know. I guess if you're healthy, you can work on your wealth. But wealth is comparative. Wise, definitely. You need your sleep.
Okay. What I'd like you to do is to say, I believe, and make that statement. It might change a little bit, although that one seems really succinct and compelling. To say, I believe, and to say it as if you absolutely, completely, 100%, every fiber of your being, believed it.
I do. I believe that early to bed, early to rise makes a girl healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Okay. Do you believe her?
No.
Convince them.
It's true. Early to bed, early to rise makes a girl healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yeah. All right. When I mean wealthy, I don't necessarily mean money. I'm not very money.
So let me interrupt.
Wealth is different.
Let me interrupt this for a moment. Notice her gesture, her belief gesture. So I want you to exaggerate your belief gesture, and when you make the statement, say "I believe," and then the statement, and say it once again to convince them.
I believe. I believe early to bed, early to rise makes a girl healthy, wealthy, and wise.
All right. So how does that feel inside?
A bit of resistance in the back there. I don't know why.
All right.
I believe if you go to bed early and you get up early, especially if you get up early, that's the thing. You get up early, you'll be healthy, wealthy, and wise. You've got more day to fit stuff into.
Do you believe her?
No.
Convince them again.
You've got to get to bed early and get up early to be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
All right. Does that seem more believable? More believable. And you hear her voice, more neurology. She's got some gestures going.
Yeah, you've got to get to bed early and get up early to be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Okay.
If you want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, get to bed early, get up early.
Okay. Say it one more time and say it with
I like it the other way, yeah.
Okay, yeah, finding your words and starting with I believe, and this time as you say it, just notice how you're feeling. I believe.
I believe if I'm going to put it the other way. I believe to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, you've got to get to bed early and get up early.
Okay. Let me encourage you to use I statements. I, instead of a preaching statement to them, you. So say I.
I believe I will be healthy, wealthy, and wise when I get to bed early and get up early.
Okay.
I believe I will... It's such a long one. Memory retention at this time of the day. Yeah, I will be healthy, wealthy, and wise when I get to bed early and get up early.
Okay. So notice how
and get my day started.
Okay. So notice how that's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to identify any emotions that you're having.
Angry with myself that I didn't do it.
Okay.
When I believed it.
Okay. So there's some motion going on. Now make the statement, I will, or I choose, or I'm going to, or from this day forward, and then finish it.
Yeah. From this day forward, I will be healthier and wealthier and wiser because I'm going to get up earlier, because I'm going to get to bed earlier.
Okay. Are you going to do that?
Yeah. I can do it when I'm here. When I'm at home and my husband's on shift, he's a doctor on shifts, etc., etc. Then it becomes it's the ecology.
Okay.
But I got to say my health, wealth,
Okay.
and wise comes before
Okay.
your shifts,
Okay.
your job,
Okay.
and
So,
your staying up late.
one more time saying I will, and this time as if you were going to absolutely do it. I will. All right, from this day forward.
I will. From tomorrow, get up early and be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And from tomorrow, I will go to bed earlier, get up earlier, and be healthier,
Okay.
and wealthier, and wise.
And what
Bit more
emotions
in
are
my
now
day.
coming?
In my day.
When you think about doing that and getting up earlier and being healthier, wealthier.
Still
wise.
angry that I didn't do it.
Okay. Any other emotion?
Determined
Okay, determined.
that
Okay.
I'll have my way. Yeah,
Okay.
no matter what the ecology
Okay.
says.
So what one thing can you do today, in addition to saying this in front of the group, what one thing can you do today that begins that process to make this real for you? The one thing I'll do today is,
Keep saying this and believing it.
okay,
And knowing it.
okay.
And
So what I'd like you to do now is just to imagine that, maybe close your eyes and just imagine your timeline. The one thing I'm going to do today is, and I'm going to do this because of the principle of, and the belief that I'm letting be a command to my nervous system, and the decision that I've started to make, and the emotions of anger that I haven't started this earlier, and determination. And if in the days and the weeks to come, I keep doing this over and over, there'll be other emotions coming. And I'll feel various things because I've made this decision, because I have this belief, because I have this principle, because I'm feeling this. And as you imagine going out in your timeline in the days and the weeks to come, the months to come, with this principle now commissioning your body how to feel this, are you aligned with this? Okay. Any objections to this?
no.
Okay. As you go out into the future, suppose you're 3 months out and you've been making this happen. Will this change how you define yourself? Will it affect your sense of identity or sense of self at all?
No, because sometimes I can have
Okay.
a late night,
Okay.
but I'll catch up.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
it's overall. It's balances in the week.
Okay. As you go out 3 months, will this change some of your intentions? Or will this do anything to your sense of your intentions as you move through life?
Yeah, because I'll get up early and I'll get on that treadmill
Okay.
before the day starts.
Okay. And notice how this might change some of the meanings of your life, some of the rich meanings that you experience and that you will experience.
I don't know about that one.
Okay. And we can just let that settle. And if something comes to mind, you can welcome that
Lots
in.
of good meanings. I don't know
Okay.
if there'll be any new ones.
Okay. Okay. So as you retire this evening, and as you remember the principle, the belief,
I'm not retiring for many years.
as
So when I
you
sleep.
go to sleep tonight,
Yeah.
as you go to sleep tonight, remembering the principle, the belief, the decision, the feelings. We'll give her a hand. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So you can see the general process of this. What we're really doing is getting our neurology, our body, into it, and we're driving it linguistically because it takes more linguistics. So find your principle, and then say it as if you fully believed it. We're doing the as if. When you're coaching, ask them, do you believe this? If they say, not really, then ask them, would you like to believe it? And the answer, by implication, the answer is, well, yes. Get them to say, yes, I want to believe it. Because once we give ourselves a chance to believe, kind of like in the movie The Matrix, what is Neo doing? Because in the movie, as he came out of the subway and Agent Smith appeared again, and Trinity and Morpheus are outside, and they say, what is he doing? Because Neo turned around to go fight him. And Morpheus said, he's beginning to believe. He's beginning to believe. And the way to begin to believe is to take action, even if you don't believe yet. Would you like to believe this? Yes. Okay. Say it as if you did. And just do it several times, using as much as your neurology as possible. Same thing with the decision. Will you do this? Say it as if you would. I will from this day forward. Or I'm going to. Or I choose to. Whatever. And just, as you do that, notice the feelings. Welcome them in and be with those feelings. And say, maybe express those feelings. I'm feeling whatever. And then the one thing I'll do today, because what we're doing is bringing it down to action. Bringing it down to action. So it's a simple pattern. If you don't know what to run, then think of some principle that's already in your body. And run that through to find your template.
I read something about that you said those positive thinking folks thought that affirmations were really okay, and what's the difference?
Well,
because you can have that somebody doesn't really believe in it.
Right. So affirmations tend to be goals. I'm going to be a millionaire. And when you say that, I'm going to be a millionaire, I am a millionaire. But in the back of your mind, yeah, really. Because it's not so today. We're telling ourselves a non-truth. Now, if they made them, because they say make an affirmation in the present as if you're already there. But it's sending a false message. I'm not a millionaire today. So what's in the back of the mind, we'll recognize that. We're not doing that. We're taking a principle. The principle is, if I spend less than I make, I'll have capital to invest. I understand that if I spend less, I believe in spending less. I will, from this day forward, spend less. I'm feeling I'm going to have to control my budget. I'm going to have to deal with my spouse. I'm going to have to, I'm feeling the one thing I'm going to do today is. So we're not making an affirmation about something that's not so. We are creating a pathway for how to be and function and operate in the world. So it's very different from an affirmation. Affirmations, for the most part, don't work because we're sending an erroneous message. And the parts in the back of the mind is going to discount it. And so you can affirm all you want, about money and other kind of things, and it's not going to work.
Affirmations are like details. When I'm global, so that worked for me because it's global down. Whereas affirmations don't work for me because it's like, all these little details, don't bother.
So this is mind to muscle. Any questions on how to do it? We're driving it linguistically. Now this is a pattern that once you leave here, I would recommend anytime you are moving your body, when you're out for a walk, when you're running, run through this. I do this to this day. When I'm out running, I ran 4 miles at lunch today. And when I run and some idea comes to mind, I go, that's a great idea. I understand. I believe. I've scared cows and sheep with this thing. And I'm sure I've disturbed some farm people where I go run sometimes.
I'm not sure that I caught everything when it came to the action. At what point do you get into, how are you going to do this or getting
you don't. One thing will you do? Will you write it down? Will you talk to someone? Will you call someone? Will you make a note in your journal? Well, one thing will you do today?
Oh, that's all you said for the action.
So the cue line, it should be in your notes, the cue line is, the one thing I will do today is, and the person finishes the sentence. Each of these are sentence completions. I understand, intellectually I understand, I believe, start this one, I will, Start this one, I'm feeling, I'm experiencing. Start this one, the one thing I will do today is. So this is where, as a coach, you're just getting them to finish the sentence.
Where do you get them to start gesturing and moving the body?
As they're moving down, they're gesturing their belief.
At principle, belief, decision, and feelings.
And then we can refine it a little bit further by doing other kinds of gestures. But the first gestures are the neurology of driving it. I believe, I will, I'm feeling, the one thing I'll do today.
You just encourage them to show it in their whole body, or some part of them.
How do you do something abstract like you are as free as your frames?
Intellectually, I know I'm as free as my frames. I believe that I'm as free as my frames allow me to be. From this day forward, I'm going to operate as if my frames is what creates my freedom to get in and do the things I want to do.
You're just going to make up physical...
Yeah. So if I want to gesture that kind of freedom, the first kind of gestures is the belief gesture and the decision gesture, the feeling gesture, the doing gesture. Because this brings it down in our neurology to that. Then as you refine it a little bit further, and so this is the intellectual gesture. Intellectually, I know, that's so. And then as I bring it down, I believe that I'm as free as my frames allow me to be. And I will get inside this freedom by setting the kind of frames that just release my energy to do that one thing that's going to be so important. And I'm feeling excited that I can get on a pathway of liberation from all the distractions. So I'm just coming up with ways I would express that. And so finding ways to mime it after you've brought it down and begun to feel it. So let's do this. This will go really, really quick, like 5 minutes each, just to get the feel. Because if you spend a lot of time talking about it, then you won't be feeling it.
The feeling piece, and it seemed like in one of your examples they were using, there was like an objecting part there. There was a thing maybe said that...
Well, she said, resistance in her back.
Yeah, maybe I have a problem with... No, I'm not necessarily in hers, but... in hers, and then you were talking about, I picked up on...
So any feeling that is negative, welcome it in. Because it's moving you away from, or toward, or just it's creating motion. It's getting more neurology. And that's what we're looking for, just more neurology, motion, emotion.
But the example you used where the spouse might have you're going to have a problem with the spouse of having the income, spending less than what you're
So that's why the ecology has to be settled at first. That ecologically it would work well. I may have to work out some things, but I want this to commission my body how to be. So the emotion may be, I've got some things I'm going to deal with, and I'm willing to welcome it on, and that may be one of the things I'll do, the second thing, the third thing, the fifth thing that I will do to make this real. So 5 minutes each, grab a partner. I would recommend standing up. One of the most unique things I think about meta-coaching is that we talk about coaching the body to feel, not just because when you think about coaching,
It's kind of a head.
yeah, it's more of a head thing, and that kind of coaching, people have great ideas, but if we're going to really close that knowing-doing gap, we have to get it into neurology. This is our way of getting it into the unconscious. Because what is unconscious? Well, yeah, everything that's not conscious. And so now we say it's more intuitive. It's that in-knowing. Well, you drive intuitively. You type intuitively. Because it's now in your body. I often say, where is X on the keyboard? Well, I don't know. But my fingers know. which just sounds like do 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 do. You know, my fingers know lots of things about how to reverse drive when I've got a wagon behind a car, and so and if you ask me to explain it, I can't explain. I don't know anymore, but my body knows, and so this is muscle memory. And if muscle memory can memorize concepts, you probably do some of those claw motions on your computer now with, you know, Control F, alternate F5, and you do that because you're going to write justify a margin or do something. And if somebody asks you, how do you do that? I don't know. Let me ask my fingers.
People ask me somebody's phone number, and I put my finger up there. And if I lay my hand on the 10 key, I can do the 10 key, and if I reach over to the phone, my fingers know how to switch, and I can switch because the numbers are upside down.
Yeah. So
if you gave me a phone number and I went to key it in on the 10 key, I'd mess it up.
So great example of muscles knowing. I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but muscles knowing.
Just giving an example of that, Brian from the Canary Islands goes in and sells security to huge companies worldwide. He'll get an appointment with the CEO, and then he'll tell them afterwards, he said, when I walk out of here, I'm going to tell you your PIN for your checking account. And then he starts going, how do you remember that number? And he just watches how they're using their, because they'll actually physically go, whatever their PIN number is. 2334. Is that done? And he goes, okay, here's some security leaks. Boom, 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 boom. And the PIN number to your checking account is. He's got the account.
Yeah. I was going to say, in an unfortunate twist of this, like I know I've done this in reverse probably. You know, maybe gotten a lot of negative ideas down in the.
Sure.
You know, even something you're physical and maybe you're focusing on how painful it might be, versus like, you know, making sure at those moments that you're...
So what if some of the feelings that we have in our body are old programs that the muscles are remembering? Now, we've got some patterns for dealing with that, and we can talk about that in the next few days about how to deload that. But what if some of the feelings have nothing to do with what's going on now, but it's just an old program, and intuitively you still know it, and it's in the way? Of okay. Well,
emotional memory.
Yeah, well, emotional memory and stuff. Yeah, the only work I know of hers is molecules of emotion, which I don't recall if you're different with that.
So when I talk with a client and I hear I should believe, then I know there's emotional memory that is inhibiting the belief.
Possibly.
Confirming that they really want to install that in the memory muscle. Should believe is not going to make it.
Right.
And your first sentence makes it very clear. They have to want to incorporate that in their system.
Now, do you want to believe this? Would you like to believe this? Would you like to make this a command to your nervous system, and so that eventually it becomes muscle memory? And once it's muscle memory, just like driving, you don't have to remember. You're really free to do new things and to learn new things. Okay, Christine?
Someone was involved in trauma, and physical touch or motion near them brought them back into that memory. Could you de-link it?
Yeah.
Hug.
Let me put that off till the next day or two, and at some point I'll look and see when that would be good to bring that. But we do have some patterns and processes for that, and so it'll be a very good thing to work on. What I'd like to do now as we shift gears is to talk about a couple other things about loading in, because what we're talking about today is loading your matrix, reloading your matrix, and of course mind to muscle is a great one, and the genius pattern. On page 65, and what I'd like to do for just a moment is what we could call secret coaching. I would like to work with someone, do a demo with someone on a problem that you have, and I don't want you to talk about it. I don't want to know about the problem. I just want to ask some questions, and so you don't have to say a thing. It'll really be secret coaching. You got something? Because I don't care what it is. We'll just work on it. I just want to ask you a series of questions. So we don't even have to mic you up. Great. And this is on page 65. And I'm just going to read it straight out. And so we'll find out what happens a little bit later. And so as we get oriented, what I like you to do is to think about that problem. What is that problem? Got a sense of that? Okay, so that sounds like that must be hard, is it? Okay. When you step back from that and get a larger perspective, do you think that's really true? That problem is really true? You step back from it? Okay, it's there. And do you think it's, as you step back from and get that larger perspective, do you think it is absolutely true? Okay, okay. Do you really know that this is absolutely true without a question? What do you get by holding your belief about that? Do you get anything? You don't get anything at all? No positive secondary gains from it? Your belief about that problem? Or your belief that would hold that problem in place? Is there anything valuable? Is there anything important about the problem? Or about your beliefs about the problem? Not good. So you're aware of the things that the problems it causes and the distresses. And what is your belief about the problem? What is the belief that holds the problem in place or creates the problem? Okay. And that belief that you have, you know the belief now about the problem. What's a positive benefit of that belief? What do you get from believing that? Got something? Okay. Is this who you are? Okay. Is this who you want to be? Okay. Is this your highest pathway in life? Does this reflect life as you want it to be? Okay. Would you like to rise above it and be more than that? Okay. What else would you like to discover, experience, or become above and beyond that? You have something? What else would you like to become as you rise above that? What other qualities or traits would you like to texture into your experience that would change it, alter it? Okay. Now, while I'm not asking you to drop this belief or even to take on another frame unless you're just absolutely convinced that it would enrich your life and increase your resourcefulness, I do wonder what you can now see in terms of higher values and thinking about this new frame. Would this new frame have some higher values? Okay. This new frame, would it serve you, or how would it serve you to drop or exchange the old belief? How would it serve you to drop or exchange the old belief? Okay. Would this new belief do you well? Okay. Is there anything stopping you from choosing that kind of higher resources?
No.
Okay. Who would you have to become, and what would you have to experience to rise up to that kind of level of experience to choose that new frame? What would you have to become? How would your self-definition change or alter? Would you like to have that belief running your programs? You would? You really would? You're not pulling my leg? And you'd like to have that belief? Will you have that belief? Now? Okay.
Well, it's interesting to step back from the problem, and what I've learned over the past few days is that I am in control of who I am. So knowing that, and I used to think it was like an irrational behavior, but it's just me and I can change it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the effect that you had as we just kept asking question after question after question?
Well, I just realized that it's very easy to just step away and see it is not me, but just something that I used to do.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And so, what is the difference between where we started and where you are now?
Well, I used to not be conscious of it unless I was called out on it, which I was, but I thought that I didn't have control over it. So the difference is now I can call myself out, or I don't even have to go there. So.
Okay. Well, give her a hand.